Sara.
Confusing. We had a question up front about some pre-log questions, and I looked at Sarah and I said, I don't think there's enough pre-log agencies here to start that in this confusion. But hopefully one day, maybe before I retire, we will add some more agencies on.
Yeah, the pre-log, the new system, I will have to say there's definitely pluses and minuses. We're trying to work out some more kinks, but yeah, it's definitely, especially doing the data entry, not having to retype the stuff over from when y'all type stuff to make it work. Yes, because I've done data entry for 6, 7 years, and it's like, okay, is that a K, a H, or what? And you're sitting there having to decipher and become a document examiner. Now I've lost my train of thought about that. One thing I will kind of hit on, it was previously mentioned a while ago that items previously examined for the same type of processing. As you see on the evidence guide, it's got it there for Layton's and also for farms. Really, that kind of holds true for pretty much all the disciplines. If it's been previously examined by somebody, and that will come in play more probably for the older cases, coming in from new technology, like if a rape kit's been at the crime lab and the kit's already been examined, now you want to send it on to DNA. It's not going to go back through the body fluid exam again. Because the first thing we're going to do is look at the laboratory reports. If semen was present or the body fluid was present, we're going to take them samples and I'll send them straight to DNA. However, we have had situations where the ADA's office or other agencies have requested that we re-examine it. So if you're bringing in some of these older cases that have been examined already by our laboratory, the only thing I've got to do is just go to our lab director and explain the situation. I may need input from you, especially if I don't know the situation on the case. It's just basically getting the information and then going and explaining to him as to why the agency or the ADA or the whatever other agencies involved in the case is wanting us to re-look at this rape kit for the body fluid. And he has approved of some of them he has not. It's just depending on the circumstances around the case. So that whole statement kind of holds true for a lot of agencies. And that holds true for if you have, I don't know how many agencies have their own, like the crime scene, somebody from the crime scene has processed it. If they've used chemicals or whatever on the item, there'll be questionables as to whether or not, if it's already been pre-examined by the agency, we may not come behind you and analyze it again. So some of that situations you may get evidence back saying if there's any notations or something in the report saying it's been previously analyzed and it's not going to be analyzed at this time. It may be something based on the evidence that we see or the information provided. Is there any other questions? I mean, y'all got the floor for at least a good 30 minutes if you wanted. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I would DNA cheek swabbings. Okay, I was sitting in court the other day, and it was a sexual case, and got the suspect, the victim, and the victim's child. So DNA cheek swabbings were taken from the suspect, from the victim, and from the child. Okay, they did 4 swabbings from each person.
Okay.
They took the 2 swabbings and the little Q-tip thingies, and they put them in them little white boxes that you have to manipulate and put together.
And they're crappy to get out of.
So they put them in these boxes, and then the suspect's 2 boxes, 4 swabs, went in a brown evidence bag, and it was marked with all his information on it, taped up, sealed, initialed. The victim, the same procedure, and the child, the same procedure.
Okay.
So now we've got 3 bags with these DNA samples.
Okay.
I took them to court, And the defense attorney is now questioning contamination because of the fact that the box wasn't airtight and it's in a brown, breathable bag. Is there a certain way? I guess this was his only grasp at trying to get the suspect not to be guilty.
Right.
But is there a certain way that the DNA cheek swabbings can be done so that they're airtight and can't be questioned? Am I
Airtight is a
asking?
problem. You know, if there's any type of moisture, then you're actually causing the cells to degrade. So the way that you packaged was proper, unless there's some type of liquid that goes onto that to bleed through to the other one. There's no way the sample that's on those swabs inside, you've double packaged them, so that's even more secure. That's contamination should not have. I mean, they can say anything. But again,
Right, but
you're
I
gonna
just
come
wanted
up
to
with someone who
verify
can
that there is not another way to.
because plastic it will be rejected. We won't take that sample. That is an improper collection, and that would be the only way for it to be airtight. And airtight is a bad thing for any type of DNA collection process.
Okay,
So
but yeah, I mean,
we
he was
did
just
fine.
questioning the fact, well, this box isn't airtight, and now you've got it in a brown breathable bag, and I'm looking at him thinking, really? Is this your only, yes, he was grasping at straws, so I just wanted to verify that that is the correct way to submit a cheek swab.
You kind of brought up 2 points while you were speaking. One, the situation she was talking about. For instance, if you had submitted that to the crime lab to be worked, we would not have worked it because that is a paternity testing. Basically, you got, if I'm understanding right, they were trying to see if the suspect raped the victim and the result produced the child. So that situation, the laboratory does not do paternity testing. We can provide you with laboratories, a list of laboratories that you can contact and call to get that testing done.
Well, we did have that tested elsewhere, but when it went to court, he's questioning.
Right, I mean,
Packaging.
you just brought up, it was just when you said the scenario, it just reminded me of, hey, just let's refresh that
Right.
paternity testing. The crime laboratory does do it, even though it's a crime situation, it comes down to paternity testing, and that's what I was trying to stress was that that's something the laboratory doesn't do. And the second point was the packaging. Anything for DNA, you want in a paper product. Envelope, boxes, anything that the air can go through, so that you don't want moisture to build up inside these, so you want the things to be completely dry. If moisture, let's just say you do, I had a case a couple years ago, it was a shoe found at an accident. The agency put it in plastic, but then put it in paper. So of course, we're accepting it, and all we're seeing is the paper. So at the time, it does meet our practice. Well, by the time it got worked and the analyst opened it up, it was wet, and there was moisture buildup. It was moldy. So that's what you don't want, especially when you're dealing with DNA. Ironically, this was nothing to do with DNA, so we really were somewhat, but when the agent, I had to be working in evidence control, I wasn't assigned to the DNA section, so I was just in evidence control, and I had to be the one who accepted it, thinking it was all fine, so of course Dan was like, get up here, you gotta see this, and I'm like, oh, I'm not even walking in the room, I can smell it from here, we're good. But anything with DNA, you want it in some type of paper product. I can't stress this enough. I know when I gave spoken with y'all on these past conferences, I stressed the same thing. And it's because, ironically, I still see the problem. So if you could get the standards, make the notations, the guidelines, if you have not had the pleasure, these are retroactive, so we are going back on some of the cases y'all have submitted to the laboratory. So you may be getting some of these cases, especially the possession by firearms cases. If it got submitted in 2011 or 2012 or 2013 before this went to place, I'm going through and screening these cases, and if it doesn't meet this acceptance guideline now, it will be returned to the agency. Again, same scenario, if it gets returned and you feel like it's warranted, make a phone call, we'll discuss the thing, and it's not saying it's a definite no. I was speaking to Sharon a while ago, part of my job, I'm your first line for DNA. I'm gonna look at it based on the paperwork. I'm gonna say yes or no, but it doesn't mean that it's the final rule. You still got the forensic manager over forensic biology, and you also got the lab director, if it needs be to go that far. Any other questions?
The cheat sheet that Sarah passed out, the one that has all the guidelines on it, I call that the Reader's Digest version of the PowerPoint slides. Susie went in there and picked out the most common sense of what we're trying to tell you. At the bottom of that page is a link. There is tons of resources on that link. The evidence guide is up there, and it's brand new, just been put out September 1st. There is a new SBI 5 up there. So there's a bunch of resources on that link. If you want to, shoot me an email, and I can shoot that back to you electronically, so you will have it. If we just couldn't do that today, we just want y'all to have something in your hand. But if you want that, I'll be glad to do it for you. And it's on the website too. It is. And please feel free to pass it out to everybody in your department.
Yeah, one of the things we've always, I've been with the crime line for 20 years, and it's like they get it to the chiefs and the sheriffs, but somehow some information doesn't trickle down to the people who actually need it. So of course this is, I know it sounds like we're just nothing but recording because we do the same presentation, but again, we want to make sure the people who actually need this information is getting told and know where the resources are, so that you can get it and not have to worry about getting it from other individuals. Okay, nobody has any more questions for the crime laboratory? We're done. Oh. You said we could get it.
Yes, ma'am. SBI 5s, so we can use the old ones still, right?
The only difference, I think, on the new SBI 5, there's a place for a court docket number. I don't need that. So, yeah, you can still use.
I think that's because a lot of our dispositions, the only number on it is the court docket number. So if you know what the court docket's gonna be, which 9 times out of 10 you don't, but if you do know it, if you put it on there, a lot of times we're getting straight from the DA's office, and the only number they're giving us is the court docket number, which tells us absolutely.
And it's not mandatory.
Definitely.
The biggest reason we had to put a new SBI 5 out is because we're
It's
not
not
an
an
SBI
SBI 5
anymore. We're an old-time state crime lab.
And now that's called a request for physical examination, where
So
we're
we had
supposed
to
to
change
click
every
on it as
form
privilege.
that we have, and of course, that's why. But yes, you can still, I still see the ones from 20 years ago. If y'all remember, it has, does victim or suspect have AIDS, hepatitis, VD? You can still use those. I mean, we see them every once in a while.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Since you're the state crime lab, now what's the affiliation with the SBI?
Redheaded stepchild.
I mean, the only difference is that we pretty much, where we, like our lab director answered to the director for the crime guy, and we answer directly to GOJ. It's pretty much, our lab director is kind of the same as the director of the laboratory, the SBI. There's still some crossover because we still have some sworn analysts, in our laboratory. So you still got that a little bit of connection. We're still dealing with the same part of logistics, and we're still working out the kinks, honest truth. I mean, even our management system, they're like banging their heads trying to figure out how we want to. It's going to take, I don't know how many, it could take several years before we actually see the completely separation. I know we've gone to court several times, and I say I work with the North Carolina State Crime Laboratory, which we've been stating that almost 2 years. That we became the state crime laboratory, not the SBI crime laboratory. And I still go to court. Even I was just in testimony two weeks ago where the defense attorney says, "So how long have you worked with the SBI?" I mean, I've just rephrased it. I work with the crime laboratory. I've been working with the crime laboratory for 20 years. I mean, so everybody's still gonna probably still associate us with the SBI. So, still new to us. It was definitely a big change when we stopped having to answer the phone, SBI phone for it. I stumbled over my words on how many times.
It's kind of like Dean said, you call agency and, you know, I speak to Tammy and they said, well, can I ask you to call them? Well, Melanie from the Crop Lab. Where? Melanie from the SBI. Oh, yes, hold on.
But now, Sarah, when you call the 919 number, they answer SBI.
That's because that's where the still, that
switchboard is there.
connection is still there, because our main phone system still calls the SBI headquarters. It still goes through the reception at the headquarters.
We're in two separate buildings. You're actually calling to the SBI building, but our phone lines are.
And so when we switched over to evidence, that's state Crime Lab.
Yes.
That's good enough.
I've heard talks that, I mean, we're supposed to be, because even a lot of agencies are, you know, when I leave phone numbers, I'm still having to leave the main number and my extension. Or when they come back, well, can I call you back at this number? No. That's just one of the 50 million lines that we have for the laboratory and for the bureau. At some point, I've heard that we're supposed to get our own individually, so hopefully at that point, you won't be going through the headquarters anymore, you'll be going straight to us and having our direct line to our offices. Any other questions?